Hi everybody, how is it going? For today's lecture, it's going to be about the elements of a sentence in both languages, of course, plus some ideas that are of importance regarding thematization or fronting of some elements. And this is, of course, concerns word order, basically, plus the types of sentences. I'm not going to deal with the elements of the sentence because you are in the fourth year and they are quite clear to you, whether we have subjects or verbs or objects or complements. These are crystal clear. They don't need to be examined deeply. However, in this chapter, I'm going to single out some topics that are of significance to you, that are important to you as translators across Arabic and English or vice versa. And one of these topics is a sentence which is called a clefting sentence or etiquette sentence. You know that cleft sentences are of two types in English. We have etiquette and Wh-cleft. If you have gone through the chapter, you will see these two types. In this type of a sentence, which is etiquette, the focus is on thematization. Thematization يخص بداية الكلام، بداية الجملة. So ما يبدأ به الكلام. ما يبدأ به الكلام. This is the meaning of thematization. And we will see that there are rhetorical purposes for thematizing an element. يعني اكو فد أغراض بلاغية اللي من خلالها يتقدم عنصر معين في الجملة. That is to say, it is not arbitrary. المسألة ما هي اعتباطية. There are reasons, اكو أسباب. So we will go through these. Now, let us define what is meant by clefting. Clefting or a cleft sentence, it is a type of fronting. That is to say, thematization. You put an element first, whether in your speech or in your writings. It is a type of fronting where the sentence is what is called the cleft, and it is split into two parts. And these two parts represent new information and given information. Dear students, the idea of information is highly important in linguistics, especially in functional linguistics. New information and given information, these are what? These are linguistic terms. يعني لا تأخذونها بشكل بديهي، لا، هذني مصطلحات لغوية مهمة. New information and given information, they are related to the structure of the sentence. Sometimes when I am going to deal with a given structure, I put into consideration that certain positions are important. It is not haphazard. Where does the new information go or where does given information go? This is what will we see in our lecture for today. So again, new information and given information. Grammarians and linguists say that when you thematize an element, يعني عندما تضع عنصر من عناصر الجملة في بدايتها، هذا معنى thematize an element. When you thematize an element, you give that element prominence. تعطيه البروز، تعطيه الأهمية. You give it focus, you give it emphasis, you give it importance. So, giving a prominence for some elements, this is achieved where it is achieved in the element whose position gives us new information, focused information, and what? And foregrounding. طبعا foregrounding يعني التقديم أيضا، استهلالية الجملة. Now, let us explain our notion in a simple example in order to understand what is meant by clefting and what is meant by new information and given information, and where do they go. يعني موقعها بالجملة وين. Our example says, it was a small boy that the truck hit yesterday. It was a small boy that the truck hit yesterday. Now, first, let us examine the structure of the it-cleft sentence. And we are going to render into Arabic to see what is there in Arabic as a counterpart for this type of an English sentence. So it was a small boy that the truck hit yesterday. First, you start with it plus a verb of to be. Then you select your grammatical subject, which is here a small boy. So this is the first part. This is the first part of what? Of an it-cleft sentence. We have it plus verb of to be plus another element. Then, in order to join the two parts, you put a relative pronoun. تستخدم لي ضمير وصل. هسه هنا عندنا ذات. طبعا الذات ممكن تشير للعاقل وممكن تشير لغير العاقل. It doesn't matter. So, the second part is what? Is another clause. But it lacks an element. We have an element which is left out of it. And that element, we what? We do what to it? We front it. نقدمه. And where do I put it? I put it in the first part after the verb of to be. Here, the original sentence reads as follows. The truck hit a small boy yesterday. This is the original sentence, where a small boy is an object. It is fronted. It is left out. Why? Because we want to give it emphasis. We want to consider it as a new information. This is the important part I want to emphasize. I don't want to focus on the track or on the process of hitting or on the time of the hitting, which is yesterday. No. These pieces of information are given. Dear students, when I say that this is given information, it means the addressee or the listener or the hearer knows them. So there is no need to emphasize these pieces. Why? Because our listener knows them. I am in a position to focus on the element which is highly important, which is highly significant, which is a small boy here, because the listener does not know who was hit. That's why I started with it. That's why I have used it within the first part of the it-cleft sentence. Now, in this example, the clefted element is the object, which is a small boy. In this type of a sentence, which is it-cleft, the part, the element, which we want to focus on, we use it in the first part after the verb of to be. What is given, what is known is what? Is backward. It is put in the second part because it is noun. So in this type of a sentence, which is it, the most important element, you put it after the verb of to be in the first part. Now, I can use this it-cleft sentence to focus on any element I want to focus on. I know the situation. I know the context. So it means that as a speaker, I know what is the most important element. I know that element which the hearer does not know. Now, the same example, but I'm going to change the element being emphasized. It says, it was a truck that hit the small boy. Now, as you can see, the focused element is what? Is a truck. The listener does not know what hit the boy or who hit the boy. He wants to know. He wants to know the agent. He wants to know the doer of the action of hitting. That's why I fronted it. It means I put it in the first part of a cleft sentence. So it was a truck that hit the small boy. Now, what is the new information? The new information is the truck. What is given information? The given information is the small boy was hit. But who hit it? What hit it? The addressee does not know. So I am entitled to front that element, which is important. Again, the same example, but we are going to focus on the time of hitting, where the listener, where the addressee does not know the time. I start with it. I give it prominence. I focus on it. So it says, it was yesterday when the truck hit the small boy. It was yesterday when the truck hit the small boy. Now, what is being emphasized here is the time of the accident. Now, when I want to render such a type of a sentence into Arabic, when I want to translate into Arabic, I use the emphatic particle in. I start with it because such type of a sentence in English, which is clefting, it is used to give emphasis. Now, how can I convey emphasis in Arabic? One of these ways is to use the emphatic particle إنه بالأمس عندما صدمت الشاحنة الولد الصغير. إنها شنو؟ شاحنتنا التي صدمت الولد الصغير وهكذا. It means I use after إن the focused element, the prominent element, the most significant element. I put it after إن in Arabic. So clefting in English, one of its parts is Wh-cleft. Another type of clefting in English is called Wh-cleft. And here the picture is different from Wh-clefting. The picture is different in what case? It is different in the position of a new information and given information. Out of the examples taken previously regarding Wh-clefting, we have seen that the new information goes first. When I say it goes first, it means I use it in the first part after the verb of to be. In Wh-clefting, the picture is different, and we will see. In Wh-clefting, the focused element, يعني العنصر المراد التأكيد عليه، المراد التركيز عليه، هذا معنى the focused element. The focused element lies in the latter half. يقع في النصف الأخير من الجملة. And let us see in the following example. It says, what the students look for is linguistic proficiency. Dear students, in this type of clefting, which is WH, you start with what? Or we can use other WH elements. But basically we use what? Then you proceed using some elements. What divides the two parts? What divides the two parts is a verb of to be. And in this example, it is. So What the students look for is linguistic proficiency. The new information is linguistic proficiency. It is what? It is conveyed in the latter part. I want to emphasize linguistic proficiency. I don't want to emphasize, for example, money or food or whatever. For students is linguistic proficiency. And in Arabic, I use ضمير الشأن. ضمير الفصل لفصل الجملتين اللي هو أقول ما يبحث عنه الطلبة هو الكفاءة اللغوية، أو ما يهتم به الطلبة هو الكفاءة اللغوية، والعنصر المهم الذي يريده المستمع هو الكفاءة اللغوية. And the same is true in English. Now, passive constructions. Passive constructions, these constructions are another type of thematization. يعني في اللغة الإنجليزية من أنواع الجمل التي يتقدم فيها عنصر معين هو المبني للمجهول. What is fronted, what is thematized is the object. So in passive constructions, we have another type of fronting. As I have mentioned, the thematized element in a passive voice construction is the object. You have lots of examples. This is just for explanation. This is a slide which says, the message was sent by Mary. This is a passive voice sentence. What is the fronted element? The fronted element is the object, which is the message here. Now, let us shed light on a comparison between Arabic passivization and English passivization. Let us see, is it the same or is it different? Just to refresh your minds, in English, we start with the object. This is true in all of the patterns in English passive constructions. Now, what about Arabic? We will see through this simple example. رسم الفنان لوحة. رسم الفنان لوحة. رسم is a verb in the past. الفنان is the subject. لوحة is the object. But when it is converted into passive, it becomes رسمت لوحة. So again, in the Arabic passive, as you can see in this example, رسم الفنان لوحة, and its passive construction is رسمت لوحة. In the active voice, which is رسم الفنان لوحة, the first element is the verb, which is رسم. And in the passive construction, رسمت لوحة, the first element is also the verb. So there is no change. It is unlike English. However, Arabic grammarians say that the functions of the passive of English is basically stylistic, plus we want to emphasize what the process represented by the verb itself. However, English and Arabic both agree to the functions of passives. For example, sometimes we don't know the agent. يعني أحيانا يعني ما أعرف منو اللي قام بالحدث. That's why I use what? I use passive. Sometimes I don't want to what? To uncover the agent. Sometimes I am scared of mentioning the agent, especially in politics or in religion. That's why speakers or writers use the passive voice. And you have this point here, the same function as in English. It means the function of passivization in Arabic is also true as the function of passivization in English. So the passive voice the passive voice in English, there is fronting, there is thematizing of an element. هذا الكلام ما موجود باللغة العربية. The words in Arabic, the words, they do what? They assume the same position. يعني يحافظون على نفس الموقع مالتهم. So we have another construction, which is their construction in English. Dear students, I am still talking about constructions in which we have thematized elements, in which we have fronting of some elements. Their constructions, تراكيب الذير اللي هي الجمل، جمل الشأن تسمى باللغة العربية، بالإنجليزية يطلق عليها أيضا we also call it existential sentences، يعني الوجودية، يعني as a literal translation. In this type of a construction, we also highlight new information, where in the first part, it means it is similar to clefting. Yes. So in this example, which is given for the sake of explanation, it says, يقول, there is another quiz in this semester. There is another quiz in this semester. What is the fronted element? It is another quiz. Why we use it after there is? Because we want to emphasize it. Because it is new information. Now, in Arabic, most grammarians, معظم النحويون, point out that important elements go first. Important elements go first. They mean they start with them. A simple example. قصة قرأت. Here the object is thematized. يعني المفعول به قدم المتحدث. Why? Because he wants to draw the attention of the listener to what is read. يعني ما يقرأ, or what was read, ما قرأ. قصة قرأت. The same statement, نفس الجملة, I can say قرأت قصة. I can say so. قرأت قصة, which is the normal word order of a verbal clause in Arabic. But there is a difference in what? In the point of focus. When I start with قصة, it means I want to emphasize it. When I start with the verb, I want to emphasize the process being done by the speaker. قصة قرأت. بما أن المتحدث بدأ بالمفعول به اللي هي القصة، يعني أكو فد داعي، أكو فد سبب، أكو فد أهمية إلها، أكو فد تأكيد عليها. فأنا ما يصير أستخدم جملة احتيادية بالإنجليزي. حتى أكون مترجم مخلص لازم أترجم بصدق وبأمانة وبمعرفة. المتكلم بدأ بالقصة خلاف الترتيب الاعتيادي للجملة العربية، إذن هناك سبب. نرجع لبداية الموضوع مالتنا، بداية المحاضرة. We go back to the first part of our lecture. In the first part of our lecture, we talked about clefting, and one of the types of clefting in English is using it. And this type of sentence is used to give emphasis to some elements. So I can say, it was a story that I read. هكذا. هاي وحدة. أعيد. It was a story that I read. مو read. بالماضي read. تلفظ. Or I can use passive. أقدر أستخدم المبني المجهول وأبدي بالمفعول به لإعطاء الأهمية. فأقول the story was read by me. The story was read by me. Now, in the same chapter which I told you about to read, it talks about sentence types. And sentence types include statements, questions, and imperatives. As simple as the structure is concerned, statements start with the subject. Simply speaking, statements start with the subject. Questions start with a WH word or an auxiliary. Imperatives, they start with the bare infinitive or negative infinitive. As simple as this. Again, all of these three types, statements, questions, imperatives, all of them have polarity. And when I say polarity, it means they can be positive or negative. They can be affirmative or negative. And as a student of English, I should know how to negate a statement, how to negate a question, how to negate an imperative. Statements, questions, and imperatives both can be negative and can be positive. So a statement, as I have said, starts basically with the subject. Then comes the verb, then a complement. And you put into consideration the tense of the statement. Because in English we have a variety of tenses. And these tenses are divided into simple, continuous, and perfect. That is to say, we have, for example, present simple, present continuous, present perfect. We have past simple, past continuous, past perfect, future simple, future continuous, future perfect. And we have complex tenses. That is to say, a mixture of continuity plus perfectiveness. So there are functions for statements. There are functions for questions. Because sometimes when I ask something, sometimes I want to request something. Request a materialistic thing or a spiritual thing or what? Or hidden information. Imperatives are used to give orders, to give commands. And again, they can be positive by starting with only the infinitive, and they can be negative starting with don't or never, plus infinitive, of course. And basically in imperatives, there is a difference in ranking. I mean, there is a difference in rank between the speaker and the listener. يعني to a large extent إلى درجة كبيرة هناك اختلاف بالمرتبة ما بين المتحدث والمستمع. عادة المتحدث أعلى من المستمع in order to give order حتى يعطي أمر. Any questions? We have WH questions starting with a WH word when I seek information. يعني أنا إذا عندي فد معلومة مفقودة أستخدم ال WH question أسأل بيها. If I seek truthfulness, I use yes/no question. Yes/no question means what? You start with the auxiliary and the listener answers with yes or no. Either he believes or not. Either he confirms or refuses. And I would like you, please, to go through the structure of these three types of sentences in your book here. Or you can consult other books, no matter. You should know how to structure a question, plus knowing the structure of a statement, because they are different. The basic difference between a statement and a question in English is that in a statement, the subject precedes the verb. In a question, it is the opposite. I mean, the verb precedes the subject in questions. As far as imperatives are concerned, the subject is known. Although it is implicit, the subject is known. It is the addressee. يعني الشخص المخاطب, you in English. Sometimes for the sake of emphasis, the speaker uses the subject you. For example, I say, you open your books. Or I simply say, open your books. So these things, I mean statements, questions, imperatives, these things, I suppose you know them. I suppose you have already taken them in the third year, in the second year, in the first year. It is supposed so. If not, you are in a position to read about them, because a translator should know how to write a statement, should know the structure of a question, should know how to give commands, how to use imperative clauses. So please read about these three types because they are important. When you translate, sometimes you face a question or you face an imperative. Arabic, the same. In Arabic, we also have statements, we also have questions, and also we have imperatives. And the statements in Arabic are of two types. We have nominal clauses and verbal clauses. And we have talked about them in our first lectures in word order. I should know the elements of a statement in Arabic, whether it is nominal or it is verbal. Questions in Arabic, also we have a question starting with أسماء الاستفهام أو حروف الاستفهام. وأيضا عندنا أسئلة تصديقية باستخدام الهمزة وأحيانا باستخدام هل. يعني as counterparts for yes/no questions in English. In Arabic, we also have imperative clauses. I start with an imperative verb. We also have positive and negative commands in Arabic, the same. Don't write on your book. لا تكتب على كتابك, which is لا الناهية, مو نافية هاي. Prohibitive لا, prohibition النهي. And there are differences as far as subjects are concerned in Arabic. Sometimes the subject is mentioned within the tail of the verb. When I say اكتبي, الياء هو المخاطب, أنت المؤنثة. اكتبوا أنتم, هذا واو الجمع. إذن الفاعل موجود. هذا الحكي ما موجود باللغة الإنجليزية. كلها تترجم فقط باستخدام المصدر المجرد. And I hope you rectify your grammar by doing extensive reading of grammar. Grammar is the skeleton of the language. Without a grammar, you cannot speak efficiently. You cannot write efficiently. When you master your grammar well, everyone will respect you, even English speakers themselves, because not all people can master their language. We are speakers of Arabic. But can we all master Arabic? No, of course not. Even those who are specialized in Arabic, sometimes they don't know certain grammatical issues. It needs extensive reading. In order to develop yourself, please read, and read. Do not depend only on your textbook. Do not rely only on your teacher. You are not going to develop your level at all. You will be weak. So what is the key? The key is reading. I have to stop here. Thank you for your listening. Inshallah, we meet you soon, inshallah.